Peace, family. This is your brother, Mr. Holipsism. Um, I was gonna do this review right after I had saw Game of Thrones last week. Um, but to be honest with you, I really didn't. I couldn't even emotionally sit down in front of the computer and actually do it. I'm gonna start off by saying this. First, I'm not a reader of the books. I haven't read the Game of Thrones novel series, so I'm like the vast majority of the people who watch the Game of Thrones and who got into it based on the television show. And I've intentionally tried to stay clear of videos about the Game of Thrones because assholes will put spoilers in the comment section, which is why, for the first time, I'm not going to allow comments on this video because I don't know what it is about people. I remember the first time I went to see Return of the Jedi or something, I think, or either um, no, The Empire Strikes Back. And I don't understand why somebody who went to see the movie before you considers themselves intelligent. Like, you know what's going to happen because why you saw the 6 o'clock show and I'm seeing the 8 p.m. show. So then you get the idiots to stay around to the 8 p.m. show and then give away spoilers as if that makes them feel fucking intelligent. And I have to say this, the vast majority of the Game of Thrones fans who have read the novel have been beautiful because I don't know how they could have held what happened on last week's episode as a secret for so long. So I got to give them props just for that. Like, if you read the book and you haven't spoiled it for everybody who's looking at the television series, much props to you. For the rest of you idiots, I have to. I have to put no comments because you assholes will give away what's going to happen and then think that because you're doing that, you're either doing it to be an asshole or because you think you're so special because you read the book and nobody else did. Fuck you. Anyway, back to the point of this video. Um, yes, I watched this episode and Game of Thrones, man, I have to say, this television show has really upped the ante in terms of quality TV. I can't recall, and I'm talking even like epic series. You know, like every once in a while, television, mainstream television or broadcast TV will give you some epic series, like whatever. I don't know. I don't really watch, but Game of Thrones is almost like watching a motion picture film each week. The level of the writing, the interaction of the characters, the depths of the story, the forecasting and foreshadowing, the dialogue. I mean, they have some classic dialogue in this thing. It's the best show I've seen, and that's saying a lot because I mean I've seen some shows that I was pretty impressed by. In terms of writing, I love the Sons of Anarchy. Um, I loved The Wire. I thought The Wire was a great show. Oz was a great show. There's been lots of great shows, and HBO has been responsible for a lot of them. But Game of Thrones, I am hard pressed to find another show that's better than this one. Now, this video is mostly for people who watch the show, so I'm not going to go into what the game. Watch the damn show or either read the book. If you haven't done that by now, you must be living under a rock. But this episode right here, basically, the main storyline is seen running. The running theme since the show came on was the Starks against the Lannisters. So they made you get invested in these characters. So when that episode came, when the Red Wedding episode came on, and I saw events unfolding before my eyes, I have to say this: I can't ever recall being that emotionally affected by anything, film or television, ever than what I was when I saw this episode on Sunday. And that's to me is the highest compliment that you can pay the guys who put the television show together, and also the man who's the creative inspiration behind the show, which is George R. R. Martin. I never saw it coming. Never saw it coming. And I should have seen. And when you look at it in retrospect, it makes perfect sense why it happened. You know what I mean? It made perfect sense why it happened. Because if you know about the reason why that whole thing took place, you know it's because of a major decision that Robb Stark made, and it really was his led to his demise. And everything after that is just him skating on thin ice, basically, and trying to do damage control after the fact. Because he had a nice momentum building up in the war against Tywin Lannister, and after he made this decision, everything went downhill. And I'm talking about to marry this chick instead of marrying Walder Frey's daughter, which turned out to actually be um, a good-looking chick for 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 what it is. And it just made you. What really impressed me about this show is the only way that you can get away with what they did on Sunday is by doing what they did. You had a two-season build-up before these characters were offed. So you had a chance. You felt emotionally invested. When I saw Robb Stark die, it was almost like watching a family member die. And I know that sounds crazy, but if you go on YouTube and you see, just just type in red wedding reactions, and just type it in, and it's universally everybody's reaction is pretty much the same. It's like, what the fuck is going on? And that's why I was sitting here watching this show, and I'm sitting there and I see what's unfolding. I'm like, oh shit. And even during like it wasn't just a quick thing. It was an attack, and it went on for a while. But something in the back of your mind, because you're so used to the paradigm of television, where the good guy always wins, that even if they're in dire straits, you never ever think that they're gonna die. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching it, and I'm seeing what's going on. I'm like, oh man, I can't believe they did this to the dude. And then he kills Robb Stark in front of his mother, and then they kill the mother as the last shot. And what made it so beautiful, what made it so freaking beautiful, after the mother gets killed, the credits roll with no music, no sound, no nothing. It was almost as if the directors of the show were saying, "Okay, I know we just hit you over the head with this sledgehammer. Think about that. Let's just let that marinate in your mind." They just sat there. There was no sound, no nothing. That within itself would just blow me away. That was beautiful. Game of Thrones is the best show on TV right now. Um, I didn't even put spoilers in this because it's what is this Friday? If you haven't seen the Red Wedding by now, then you must be living under a rock. And if you haven't watched Game of Thrones, I strongly suggest. It's only in season 3, so it's not going to take you long to get caught up. Start at season 1, work your way through, and watch this. And I know, um, the cat is out of the bag with the Red Wedding, so you're never going to get to experience what the people who are just watching the Red Wedding now experience. But I really feel that from now on, you should catch up. Like, there are going to be more surprises from what I hear. I've been trying to stay away from people who've read the book, and they've been very nice. They haven't given me any spoilers, anything like that, but they say just stick around because there's going to be more shocking stuff to come. So, Red Wedding might be a little anticlimactic for the people that haven't watched Game of Thrones if you go back and you watch it. Or maybe it will be, if you haven't actually seen the episode. But go back, watch the Game of Thrones, and I'm telling you, it's the best show on television right now. Probably the best show that I've ever seen. Oh, I have to add this. The lady who played Catelyn Stark, Robb's mother, the actress is Michelle Fairley. If she does not win an Emmy for the best death scene in the history of television or film, then this is a huge miscarriage of justice. Because I'm thinking really hard about what death scene I've seen in a movie or on television that was more impactful than hers. And I'm just throwing that out there. She has to win an Emmy for that shit. But anyway, I'll talk to you good people later, and I just had to throw my hat in the ring on that. Peace, people.